Hello and welcome. My name is Paul from Inspectivity. Welcome to the first in a series of Inspectivity Platform Explainer videos. This video series provides an overview of terminology and concepts, and it's aimed at new platform users who are looking to get up to speed quickly. If you want to find out detailed information about the platform, please also make sure you check out the Inspectivity online knowledge base. The link is shown below. So let's get started. This video provides an overview of the portal application, which forms part of the Inspectivity platform. Now, in a separate video, we will cover the Go app as well, but today we're going to focus on the portal application only. Okay, let's get started. So Portal is a web application, so you access it like you would any other website you go to with your favorite browser, Chrome or Edge. Start by logging in. So you access the instance URL as shown in the address bar there, and we'll log in as a particular user. In this case, I'm logging in as a inspector. Okay, let's familiarize ourselves with some of the key features of the portal application. At the top in the middle is the project selector. You click on it by clicking on the chevron at the top left here. A project is the top level of the data model, and it's essentially a secure silo to contain an asset hierarchy. That is what you are going to inspect. You switch project by clicking the link for the required project. Over on the right here, we have the user context menu. So through the user context menu, you can log out or force log out, you can change your password if you need to, set email preferences, and also access the Inspectivity online service desk to create a support ticket. We also show here the version of the current implementation of the portal application. Below the user context menu, we've got the quick search bar, which uses a contains search criteria to search for items in the asset hierarchy. The results show with the actual item and then its underlying inspections. Over on the left, we've got the main menu with an expand or collapse function to allow you to see the menu definition. The login process will remember your previous selection. And it's worth noting that the menu is permission sensitive, so depending on the functions that you have for your account will determine what icons are displayed. If I'm a power user, I'll see more functions for things like inspection template, library, issue types, etc. So now let's take a look at a different area of the application. Let's go down to the asset hierarchy. We mentioned at the top via the project selector that each project has its own inherent asset hierarchy. The asset hierarchy models what is to be inspected. It's a tiered hierarchy of what we call modules, items, and component items. So here I've selected on the left hand side a particular unit that forms part of this fictitious LNG plant. Below that, I can navigate down and I can select an item. In this case, it's a waste heat recovery unit, which is a pressure vessel that sits within the CO2 unit. I can also expand out the pressure vessel and see its components. So I can see that it's got a shell, a bottom head, some valves, etc. Now, an important difference between modules, items, and component items is that modules do not have inspections. You cannot inspect the module. You can only inspect the item. So we'll see the inspections tab here. And at the same point, we could inspect a valve, for example, so we can have inspections here. The asset hierarchy can actually be an unlimited number of tiers. So you can create an asset hierarchy that suits what you need to achieve. And it's also worth noting that items don't have to be physical items. They could be something more generic or intangible. They could be a grouping layer. Perhaps you want to perform inspections at a higher level in your asset hierarchy. You can create an item to represent virtually anything. An important part of the asset hierarchy is inspection history against your items. So each item in the hierarchy has an inspections tab. The inspections tab shows you inspection history for this item. History which is previous or superseded, history which is current, so current inspections. We can have inspections of various categories. Inspections follow status as they traverse through a workflow. Inspections can be assigned to individuals. And we have actions with which we can work on individual inspections. So now that we've looked at the asset hierarchy and looked at modules, items and component items, let's move on to the next screen, which is the asset register, which allows us to view items, as you see here, in a flattened structure, a register structure. So I'll go to the asset register screen. Here's the asset register screen, and this is presenting us a tabulated view of item data. So it's essentially a flattened structure, a flattened view of the asset hierarchy that we were just looking at. At the top of the screen, we have criteria. This allows you to construct various queries to find your item data. Below that, we see the results of the search or query with some action buttons here to allow us to run searches, control what columns we want to display, control the sorting of those columns. We can also save registers. So once we create a query, we can save it, can it, so that others can come in and use the same query, or we can also keep those queries private. Once we've saved a register, we can go ahead and we'll just pick a vessel register, for example. Selecting the register populates the criteria in the top part of the screen, runs the query and presents the results with the required columns available, sorted as per the register. At this point, we can export this information to Excel or print a PDF. In addition to the items, which we see here in the register, we also maintain inspection history against each of these items. You may recall back on the asset hierarchy screen that an item can have inspections, and inspections are shown on the inspections tab. So in the same way that we can flatten item data and view it via the asset register screen, we can do the same through the search inspection screen, but this time for inspection activity information. On this screen, again, we see criteria at the top, which allows us to construct a query to find inspection activities. Below that, we see the result set, again in a tabulated view. Search inspections also allows us to control the visibility of columns, to sort the order of the display of those columns. When we create a query, we can save it so we don't need to recreate each time we visit the screen. And we also have some quick search filters at the bottom here to allow users to come in and quickly look at my assigned inspections, my in progress inspections, etc. And these are defined based on the permissions of the user who's logged in. Search inspection screen also allows us to export the data from our inspections. So we can take the information that's captured by an inspector and push that out to Excel in a CSV format. Equally, if we select via these checkboxes on the right, we've got a range of bulk actions to allow us to control and manipulate the inspection activity as it goes through a workflow, or simply provide a zip file with a bulk set of PDF inspection activity reports. Next, let's have a look at the resource planning screen, which is the next menu item below. So the resource planning screen allows inspection activities to be scheduled and assigned to particular users via drag and drop. The resource plan shows us our list of inspectors on the left hand side, the plan in the middle, which can be filtered by day, by week, for weekly view, etc. We see unscheduled inspections on the right. We can filter those further with the criteria via the pop-up. When we find the inspections we want to schedule, we can drag and drop them onto the plan and schedule them with various drag and drop maneuvers. I can select an inspection item and I can see its details below, and I'm able to control which inspector the particular inspection is assigned to, or if I want, I can put those inspection activities into a pool. So far during this video, we've looked at screens and areas of the platform which are applicable to everyday activity, managing asset hierarchy, inspections, viewing data. Now I want to look at some more power user aspects, areas where use cases for inspections are configured. So what I'll do is I'm going to log out as my inspector and log in as a power user and show you some differences. So we'll log in as the power user and we'll see some differences in the main menu on the left when we log in. So you'll see we've got a lot more menu items shown. If I just expand those, we'll have a look at what the differences are. So primarily we've got some new aspects around controlling access to inspection use case configuration. So inspection templates, which define what and how inspectors work, the types of forms that they use. Issue types, which defines how inspectors record the problems, the defects, the anomalies. We've got project configuration, user administration, reference data administration. So let's start with the inspection templates. An inspection template provides the form and configuration for an inspection activity against an item, essentially providing a standardized approach on how to inspect an item and what information or data does the inspector need to record. The template library is the location where all of your templates are maintained. Each inspection template has some actions with which we can control its configuration. For example, we could edit the form that the inspector would use when performing an inspection activity based on this template. Here we see a coating inspection form. This is in the template editor. If we want to see what it might look like for the inspector, we can preview the form. Here we see it's got a toggle button group. It's got a button to allow quick access to the camera or to raise an issue, and there are some predefined text descriptions. Over here we see the result field, and we can raise issues, take photos, etc. So that's what this form would look like when performing a coating inspection. So let's exit this particular template, go back to the template library. Essentially, your power users are able to digitize any inspection activity that you need to perform against the items in your hierarchy. So you can create a standardized approach, a digital approach to any data capture exercise against your assets, maintaining a digital inspection history over time. Another important aspect of the platform is how inspectors record issues. Issues is a term that Inspectivity uses to define problems, the defects, the anomalies that inspectors will no doubt find during an inspection activity. We need to allow a power user to configure forms for how inspectors will record that information for different types of problem and also different types of inspection use cases. Power users can do that via the issue types screen here. Each inspection template that we were previously looking at specifies how these problems are recorded. They reference different types of issues. The types of issues are templated here. So you can use an appropriate form to record the details, the granularity, the engineering information related to that particular defect type. So for example, we were previously looking at a vessel coating inspection. So if we're performing a vessel coating inspection, we're going to find vessel coating issues. So we need to define an issue type for how the inspector records the coating problem. So we've got an issue type defined here. We can view the configuration details. We can see that there is a form presented that can be configured, so we can see what types of fields are added to the form and what types of options are available. Essentially, how is this issue going to be documented in terms of vessel coating? Also in the configuration, we can define common text phrases, we can specify a minimum number of photos, and a range of other aspects into how the issue will be documented. So we exit the issue type, back to the issue types template library. Now we can talk about some other areas of power user capability, starting with reference data administration at the bottom here. This is the cogwheel. Reference data administration provides an area for configuration of various aspects of reference data that's used by the platform. So for example, we can define categories, so types of assets or items or components that we want to model within the asset hierarchy. We can also specify attributes, so how do we define those physical properties that make up our asset hierarchy. We can look at things like inspection categories for defining different types of inspection, or look at alert rules for specifying business processes or business alerts that must be sent based on meeting specific business criteria as part of an inspection workflow. There's a lot of information in the training documentation that provides details on how to set up each of these aspects. The last part of the overview to cover relates to user administration. So we've got the user administration menu here. The user administration menu shows two tabs, users and roles. First, let's look at roles. Before we go ahead and set up user accounts to access the platform, we need to define the roles which will be applicable to various user responsibilities. A user can have one or more roles assigned to their account. Roles govern what functional aspects they can access. So we can open up this particular role, for example, and have a look. So this role is for a senior inspector. It determines what type of dashboard that particular user can see, what tabs might be hidden, what functional permissions they have, and which projects they can access. So once we've defined the roles, we can switch to the Users tab and go ahead and create a new user, defining the details around that user, including an initial password, specifying the roles that apply to that account. On creation of the new user account, the user receives an email alert advising them of their account, and then they are able to log into the portal application, reset their password, and commence using the platform. And that completes our overview of the portal application. So thank you for listening, and I hope it was interesting and informative. Please make sure to look out for the next in the series, which relates to an overview of the Go mobile application. And of course, please do have a look at the online knowledge base, which is available at the link below. There's a lot of information there that describes in detail functionality, which we've covered very briefly today. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.